In this video, we're going to simplify compound fractions. All right, so first thing we need to know is what is a compound fraction? So the definition of compound fraction is a fraction in which the numerator, denominator, or both are themselves fractional expressions. Okay, so you can see two examples of compound fractions here. Okay, we're going to work example 3 first, then we'll pause. We're going to try example 4, and then come back and check your work. Okay, now example 4 is something you're going to see in calculus. When you're working there early in the year, you'll work with something like this in AP Calc, okay? So, first thing we need to do, we need to treat each of these. This is the numerator. You know, it has a fractional expression or rational expression, but this would be considered the numerator, okay? This expression 1 minus y over x is considered the denominator. Within each part, if necessary, you need to get a least common denominator, all right? So in the numerator, okay, I need to find a least common denominator, and that's going to be y. So x over y plus 1 over 1, and notice I rewrote it as 1 over 1. The least common denominator in this numerator would be y, okay? In the denominator, okay, so we're going to multiply by y over y there in the numerator. In the denominator, my least common denominator is going to be x, okay? 1 over 1 minus y over x, okay? I just multiply those two together. My least common denominator is x. So in the denominator, I want to get a common denominator, which would be x. Okay, so just like we did when we were adding and subtracting rational expressions, we're going to use that same process here to simplify this numerator, simplify the denominator, and then we'll use our rules of division and multiplication to find our final answer. Okay, so now in my numerator, I get x over y plus y over y. In my denominator, I get x over x minus y over x, okay? If you need to pause the video at any time, just kind of look and see what's happening from step to step, that's fine, all right? So now, in the numerator, I've got two fractions with a common denominator that I can add, okay? That's going to give me x plus y over y. So this is my numerator that comes from this part right here. In the denominator, I've got a common denominator, so it's going to be x minus y over x. So that's this part right here, okay? X minus y over x is when we simplified this denominator, okay? Now I have a fraction divided by a fraction, okay? Hopefully you remember those rules. If you're dividing two fractions, you want to change division to multiplication, and you want to take this denominator here and you want to flip it, okay? We're going to multiply by the reciprocal of what was the denominator, okay? So the numerator stays the same, x plus y over y. Change division to multiplication and take the reciprocal of this denominator here. So we're going to multiply x plus y over y times x over x minus y. Now, if you'll think back to the previous section when we were, or the previous part of this section when we were multiplying fractions, nothing can cancel out here, okay? These x's don't cancel, these x's don't cancel, none of these y's cancel, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of put those together, and my answer is gonna be x times this binomial x plus y over y times this binomial x minus y, okay? Remember, you can't cancel out factors here, these x's, because this x and this y are together as a difference, okay? This x is not a factor being multiplied by this y. These are a difference. This x and this y are together as a sum. So I cannot factor out these y's or cancel out those y's. That's a common mistake you guys are going to try to make. Don't do it. All right? So pause the video, give 4 a try. We're going to get a common denominator within the numerator. This one's a little easier because there is no need to get a common denominator down here in the bottom because h is already in simplest form. Okay? All right, pause the video, come back and check your work. Okay, in the numerator, my least common denominator is going to be the product of a and a plus h. Okay, again, don't need a common denominator down here, so we're good to go. All right, so we're going to rewrite our problem, and then I'm going to fix the numerator part. All right, so I need an a in this first part. Notice it's the product here, a times a plus h, so I need an a here. So I'm going to multiply over I'm going to multiply times a over a. On the right-hand side here, I need the a plus h factor, so I'm going to multiply by a plus h over a plus h. Okay, just like we did when we were adding and subtracting fractions, let's use our distributive property here. And my numerator now is going to be a over a times a plus h minus, again, distribute 1 times a plus h is a plus h over our same common denominator. Still haven't done anything with this h yet. That's going to be in my last step. Okay, now when I combine these numerators, when I subtract these two rational expressions, notice I get a minus a. So these a's cancel out in the numerator, and I'm left with negative h as my numerator. This should be negative h. Okay, I'll add that back at the end. All right, so again, that should be negative h. Now we're going to flip it and multiply. Okay, so h over a plus h, again, this would be negative, times 1 over h, and that gives me, those cancel out, and I'm left with, again, this should be negative 1, this would have been negative h, and this would have been negative h. Okay, so negative 1 over a times a plus h. All right, and there you go. That's how you simplify compound or complex fractions.